Hello, you're watching VNA's Bulletin brought to you from Hanoi. Following are the headlines. Prime Minister Nguyen Tan Dung attends War Memorial Stele erecting ceremony in Kiên Giang. 7-month consumer price index pays lowest in decade. Elderly musical instrument maker and his life's mission to preserve an ancient tradition in today's modern world. On July 26, Prime Minister Nguyen Tan Dung attended a ceremony to erect a war memorial stele in the Mekong Delta province of Kiên Giang. The relic site used to be the headquarters of Armed Forces of Rajah Province, now known as Kiên Giang Province, during the anti-US resistance war from 1967 to 1969. During the period, the headquarters directed Rajah armed forces and people to victories in many battles. However, the place also witnessed the sacrifice of a lot of soldiers and locals in the struggle for national liberation and reunification. Notably, on April 16, 1969, the revolutionary base was hit by fierce US bombings, which killed many officers and soldiers. The erection of the stele is part of upgrades being done to the relic site with the aim of honoring fallen martyrs and heroes and promoting national pride among young generations. Work on the site is expected to be completed in December this year. The Vietnamese embassy has asked Singapore's Immigration and Checkpoints Authority to create the best possible conditions for Vietnamese nationals to enter. During a working session with the Singaporean agency, the embassy also requested Singapore prepare interpreters to have Vietnamese citizens complete entry procedures, while demanding agency at Changi Airport respect those from Vietnam.
During our working session, the Singaporean side welcomes citizens from all countries, including Vietnam, to visit, and it does not practice any forms of discrimination against Vietnamese nationals. The number of Vietnamese people coming to Singapore has doubled over the past 5 years, and 98% of them entered the country without any problems.
Singapore's Immigration and Checkpoints Authority explained it asked some female Vietnamese nationals about their purposes and related papers, and took their fingerprints did not mean it suspected those people, or they would not be permitted to enter. Similar procedures are applied to citizens from many other countries.
The embassy will continue working with relevant Singaporean agencies and airlines to make it easier to enter the country on the basis of bilateral agreements and common deals of ASEAN.
Hang reassured Vietnamese people about visiting Singapore and noted that they must prepare sufficient documents required and clearly declare the entry intention and duration of stay. Vietnam's consumer price index was a 10-year low in July, gaining only 0.68% from the end of 2014.
This month's CPI increased by 0.13% month-on-month and 0.9% year-on-year. The average figure for the first 7 months was 0.86% annually. Deputy Director of the General Statistics Office Price Statistics Department Do Binh Ngọc said the monthly CPI rise in July was the lowest in a decade. The July CPI gain was fueled mostly by high school entrance and graduation examinations, along with the hot weather, which fed the expenses of daily electricity use up by 1.32% and water by 0.22%. Meanwhile, the augmentation of medical service prices in some districts of Ho Chi Minh City since July 1st contributed to a monthly 0.15% hike in medical service expenses nationwide. 9 of the 11 key goods and service categories had their prices spike in July. The biggest pace, 0.25%, was recorded in the prices of apparel, hats and footwear. The slowest rise, 0.1%, was in food and restaurant services, followed by housing and building material, beverage and tobacco, household equipment and utensils, and transport. Education prices remained nearly unchanged, while those of the postal and telecommunication services declined 0.02%. Ngọc forecasts a slight growth in the August CPI due to an increased demand for foods in preparation for traditional festivals in the 7th and 8th lunar months.
The Central Province of Quang Nam considers the Cham Islands one of the keys to promoting local tourism. However, more remains to be done for the province to tap the island's potential to build sustainable tourism products and services.
Located to the east of the ancient town of Hoi An, the Cham Islands are the complex of 8 islets, with a total population of about 3,000. The islands were recognized as a World Biosphere Reserve by UNESCO in 2009. It welcomes around 100,000 tourists annually, 10% of whom are foreigners. Thanks to a range of promotion programs launched in 2015, the local tourism sector has reached significant outcomes.
Utilizing the sea and islands is important for local authorities. Hoi An has issued a resolution on tourism development on the Cham Islands. It's offering 9 tours on the island and is implementing a number of projects to create new tourism products.
However, experts said such programs are temporary and therefore suggested local authorities pay more attention to improving the quality of services, including infrastructure, entertainment, transportation, and food. The work requires joint efforts from different agencies and the community, they said.
Utilizing the sea and islands is important for local authorities. Hoi An has issued a resolution on tourism development on the Cham Islands. It's offering 9 tours on the island and is implementing a number of projects to create new tourism products. The province will pour capital in infrastructure in coastal areas while calling for investment in resorts.
Upgrading infrastructure, building high-quality tourism products, and capturing the space of sea and islands are decisive components towards stimulating local tourism through the Cham Islands.
The Hanoi Cultural Days is taking place in the central province of Tengu. We went along to take a look. The 4-day event, which will end on July 20th, is organized in Tengu City, Samsen Town, and some districts. It is aimed at introducing the capital city's popular cultural features to people in the province as well as foreigners, along with promoting tourism links between the 2 localities. The event includes various art programs and street parade in the coastal town of Samsen. Its highlight is an exhibition of 100 photos, introducing Hanoi's one cultural heritages recognized by UNESCO, its attractive destination, and its development. To make a musical instrument is no less art than chiseling away at rock to make a sculpture. This applies in particular to Dao Sun Soat, an artisan from a village in the outskirts of Hanoi. Our next story shows Mr. Soat's work and his life mission to preserve an ancient tradition in today's fast-paced modern world.
Vietnam is home to hundreds of traditional musical instruments, though with no more than 30 being widely known, such as the monochord, the Vietnamese zither, or the cylindrical drum. Strolling the streets in downtown Hanoi, it is not hard to find a shop where you can buy or just contemplate Vietnamese traditional musical instruments. However, if you wish to know how a musical instrument is made, join us in a trip to Dao Sa village in Ung Hoa district. For more than 200 years, Dao Sa village has produced numerous musical instrument makers, but their number has dwindled dramatically, with only 1 man left to carry the torch today. I'm standing here at Dao Van Soat's home in Dao Sa village, one of the oldest living artisans still preserving the art of making traditional musical instruments. Not a day go by where you cannot hear the sound of new musical instrument being made in his little factory. Born into a long line of musical instrument makers, Dao Xuân Soạn is a natural at bringing music to life. Now in his 70s, Mr. Soạn has devoted over 40 years to the art of crafting musical instruments. Despite a series of ups and downs, his little shop in Dao Sa village has never failed to produce high-quality pieces of art.
This job has been around for over 200 years. Artisans in Dao Sa villages originally flocked from north to south, but today's youth is losing interest, since the job requires an eye for beauty and patience. This is why I continuously motivate my son and son-in-law to preserve the art form. The toughest part of this job is the duration of tuning. It takes far too long to learn about how to make all the instruments. I started work as a driver, but since nobody else would carry on the family tradition, I have decided to learn from my father.
It doesn't take an enthusiast to appreciate the meticulous details in crafting traditional musical instruments. Take this Vietnamese zither for example. The wood needs to be collected and then dried for nearly 2 years before it can be used. Next, a number of steps have to be followed, from making the resonator to crafting the pearl inlaid. It takes an average of 3 days for an artisan like Soạn to make a single instrument.
The basic principle of making a perfect instrument is choosing the right wood. I have to know just by holding the piece of wood what kind of sound it will produce.
Nguyen Văn Liền is a musician and a close friend of Mr. Soãn's family. From time to time, the two artisans would put their work aside and talk about the instruments.
In my humble opinion, Mr. Soãn's musical instruments have a unique sound, especially since he's not a musician himself. We musicians are very impressed by his talent.
People who love traditional musical instruments travel from far away to Dao Sa village just to buy a high-quality instrument from Mr. Soãn.
I know a little bit about music. I have visited many music shops, but have full faith in Mr. Soãn's work.
Mr. Soãn used to work for a musical instrument business in Hanoi. Even after the business fell apart, he continued his work, producing numerous traditional instruments. He is now 75 years old, but we still buy his musical instruments.
Vietnam is opening up to a regional economic integration and globalization, which puts cultural wealth at risk of being forgotten. As such, artisans like Dao Văn Soạn are fighting an endless battle to conserve a traditional art form in order to ensure that ancient cultural values are not swept up in the current of modernization and industrialization.
That is the end about our bulletin. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.